Okay, so I've been updating the way that I handle ambient light for my game. Um, in the past, I was using the built in light probes that Unity comes with, and then baking out shadow maps for the environments. And then with Amplify Shader and Shader Forge, when I had the old shaders that I had, I was referencing the basically I was using light probes and I was putting them on top of my toon shader, but that gave too much of a 3D look to my characters. um, so then I made a new one where it was just a boundary, and whenever the boundary recognized an object with the material on it, it would then change a color value on the shader that would kind of lift the color of the shadows. This worked, but it didn't really blend like I wanted. I wanted a nice transition. So I finally came up with this one. So as you can see, these sprites have a shape that's, fades off and they blend into each other. And I was using this by itself and just kind of overlaying these. But as you can see, it gets on the environment. It's very harsh and it just doesn't look that great. Um, and I wanted it to only affect certain objects that had the toon shader, not all the backgrounds, not every um, bit of geometry. So I now have all of these on a separate layer called light probes, or ambient light. And these light probes, I can make any texture, I can make any size, I can make any level of brightness, and I can place these anywhere. And as you can see, they don't show up on the geometry of the level, but they do show up on the character. So as I walk towards the left, I hit the red one, and now all of her shadows have a reddish tint. Go over it, fades to the blue, and go over more, it fades to the green. And that's because these are on a different layer that get rendered out onto a second camera that has a render texture, and then that render texture in screen space is added to the geometry of any model with this material, and it blends it in nice. And the texture can be really low res because I just need basic color values, and it blends very nicely. And I can get some very cool effects where, for example, if I just want the light to, let's say, I have like an orange light bouncing off the side of this wall. You can see it's all black, very harsh shadows. In fact, I'll move the camera a bit more so we get even more black shadows. So it's very much behind the character. So yeah, basically the character's fully silhouetted, but as we get closer to this wall, she starts to fade into the orange. But she still keeps the rim lighting from the actual in-game light. She still keeps her toon shading, but she does not have black shadows, as you can see. And if I, let's play with this a little bit more. So yeah, I can at any point change how intense this effect is, change the color of it, but it's all handled through a render texture, so I don't need to use any script or code like I did with my previous methods. I can just place objects onto the ambient light layer and it will render out onto the object. This also means that if I wanted to, so for example, if we get rid of this scene and we go to an environment that has a little bit more going for it. So yeah, I placed 3 lights in here. So if I grab these ambient lights, let's grab the 3 ambient lights and turn them off for now. So if I turn them off, you can see you're still getting the real-time lighting from the point lights, but the shadows are very dark. When I turn them back on, you kind of get a nice glow. And it kind of sets the mood of the environment that you're in. But if I really wanted to, I can add something like, let's say we grab an image. Let's see, where's my gradient? Okay, so if I grab this image, and we'll scale this. So we'll get rid of the light probes for now. We grab this image. Right here. And we kind of place it where we want in the scene. And you can see the nice gradient and transitions. The moment I switch this to the ambient light layer, now that is what's affecting the color of the character's lighting. So if I shut all these lights off to 0, you can see she's not pitch black. And it's because that light is still there. And as we transition from one side to the other, you can see the color of the image affecting it. So right now, we have these yellows and stuff, and I can move this up and get back to the blues. So I can add entire sheets that represent the overall gradient of a level or a scene or a room, and it will completely overlay on top of the character. And I can do this with any object too. I mean, there'd be no real point to it, but if I wanted to, I could add, let's add a sphere in here. Make this really big, and then we'll give it a glowing material. Let's say, let's make it glow red. So right now it's on the main layer, so obviously you can see it, and it takes up a lot of the space on the camera. Let's put this back to 0. So yeah, it takes up a lot of space. And you can see it has a nice hard edge. But as soon as I switch this over, you can now see that hard edge is there. And it's kind of like a spot. So I basically have, not only can these be used for ambient lighting, but I don't need to place lights in the scene to brighten up the characters or objects for lighting. And I can also use this for shadowing, for more dynamic shadows for different environments. Like if I have foliage and leaves, I can actually put an animated sprite sheet into this layer to get those kinds of effects.